So is it playing the 30-second thing?
Nope,
What's going
you're
on?
live now.
We are live. We are live on the solar panel. Oh my gosh. This is Dave King, your host. I am taking over the host duties for the day as a special gift by Espo. Thank you very much. Espo's always been our host. And so if you thought there was big changes coming, well, there you are. These are the changes that are coming on the show. Espo is our leader. Sorry about that stumbly little entrance. I thought we were going to have the 30-second countdown. It had been clicked on the StreamYard, but it didn't play. So, hey, no
So,
worries.
what
Everything's
for
good.
letting you produce, Dave? I see.
Yeah, yeah. So, welcome, Espo, my partner in crime, the guy who's been with me for 5 years. We are partners forever. I feel like for the rest of our lives, we're going to be together as partners on this solar panel. And I
I
really
feel like you've
appreciate you,
said this
Espo.
before in your life. I feel like you've said this before.
Hey, man, every time I fall in love, I think it's forever. That's for sure.
Oh,
And this
hey,
one,
at
though,
least you fall in love hard.
this one is the one that's going to last forever. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. For some reason, my lawyer just called into the show. Why is he calling into the show?
Wait, he's my lawyer too. What's going on here?
Okay. First of all, gentlemen, let's not argue over whose lawyer here. Okay. I'm simply calling in like
It's
any
nice
rat.
to see you, though. Let's make sure everyone recognizes this is So Says Jay. Justin is the host of Fanning the Flames. He does the podcast on Bright Side of Somebody's. Also, we're lucky enough to have as a lawyer in real life, and he's done some legal help with both of us. So, what'd you call into the show for, Justin?
I will. I'm calling into the show playing a lawyer, just for the record, very clearly. And I'm calling into the show like any rational lawyer would do, because I did get the alert that the show is going live. Was tuning in like I always do as I'm eating my breakfast burrito like I would on any Saturday morning, and couldn't help but notice, Dave, it sounded to me like perhaps you didn't get word of this. I did get word that there appear to be some divorce paperwork that came over in relation to this show. And like I said, like any good lawyer would do, I figured the rational thing was to call in, let you know live on the air so you guys can air that out, split up the property, split up the flaming ballers, whatever.
Wait. What?
That's
I
right.
told you to deliver these papers before the show, Justin.
I feel like we're confusing people about how the legal process works right now. But you know what? Blame Paul. It's his fault. Okay.
Paul's my accountant. He doesn't handle this stuff.
Yeah, Paul's the accountant. What the hell? Wait a minute. Are you telling me that Espo is serving me divorce papers?
I think I am.
After 5 years together.
Right here.
I thought this was life together.
I'm serving you papers. Let's see what's in the envelope. Oh, actually,
like
it's
an index card.
It's a Dario Saric on a shark, but that'll work.
I thought that was James Jones's index card, his 3x5 of how he wants his roster.
So who's getting that? Is that who gets that piece of property?
We can send this to Dave if he wants. He can have that piece of property. All right, we're splitting things up, huh?
We are. Apparently, we're splitting things up. Apparently, Espo is going on to bigger and better things that he's probably, you know what, as any person who's leaving a marriage, they just say little rando things like, I've got a better opportunity. I feel like I've got a better future.
Can I interject really
what
quickly?
Happened to Saul? What are you doing with Saul, Espo? We brought Saul into this marriage as a third for a while.
Trying to spice this thing up.
And now are you leaving with Saul?
Can I be excused and go to my room while the parents fight?
Yeah, please.
Sure.
Thank you so much for letting us know, Justin. I appreciate it.
I'm sorry, gentlemen, that I had to break the news about your divorce to both of you on the air. It's confusing how you wouldn't have known about this, but I'm happy that I was able to break it on the air so you can have some good content. And Flaming Ballers, guess what? 2 podcasts, 2 Christmases. Look.
And Dave, to be clear, I'm not going on to bigger and better. I'm going on to younger. and pretty is what I'm
Oh,
going on to.
snap.
So
Another age joke. Oh,
well, you
man.
expected it.
You know, what I'm gonna have to do is get a new partner that is older than me, so I can then be the young one.
Would that be a first for you,
Or
Dave?
I could do it. Yes, it would be, because actually what I could really do, and probably will do, is find someone younger and even better after the fact. So
That doesn't take a whole
yeah.
lot when you're breaking up with me. So
Saul, Jim Rose is asking where Saul is. Saul has already planned their trip, and Espo has to leave because they're going on vacation to celebrate their
Saul's in the
union
chat
separate
actually,
from
which
us.
makes it even better.
He is.
Yes. Look,
He's
Dave.
leaving on a jet plane. Wow. All right. So
Look,
anyway, yeah. So tell
I'm
me what the hell is going on, Espo?
I'm leaving you with the name and the YouTube channel. You get the Flaming Ballers in the
I'm
chat.
crying right now.
The chat. You're allowed. I still get visitation rights. You guys can come see me. But Dave has you in the chat here. Saul says lies. Well, that's how we all get
So
here in
you
the end,
stole
right?
him. You came in to spice up the marriage, and then you stole him away.
He was just better on the mic than you. That's all I'm saying.
Oh,
Hey, if we're gonna play this up.
snap.
No, look, an opportunity presented itself, and it's like you said, it's
Espo,
cliche.
I don't want to be here.
I will be sending that tweet later. I'm in the salon as we speak.
Let's go.
Look, as you said, it's cliche, but it's not you, it's me, Dave. And by me, I mean I was offered an opportunity that I could not turn down. There is no hate except the fake hate that we came into the show with, and we will leave with our Twitter beef, and we will always have. But yeah, an
Now it's going to be on
opportunity.
different Twitter accounts.
Uh, an opportunity presented itself that couldn't turn down, and that is why the changes are happening. But we are here to, there's no hard feelings. I mean, I wouldn't be sitting here if there were. And Dave, I know you will.
On your part.
I know you will continue to carry the torch of the solar panel and do it proud. You'll do these flaming ballers proud. And look, you can do 58 minutes of statting people like you've always wanted to, which is a bonus for not only you but the flaming
That would
ballers.
only be for a late night show where people need actually some reason to go to sleep.
The Karma
I won't do
Statra,
58 minutes. Yeah, the
Karma Statra. Dave can
Karma
go 58 minutes of
Statra.
statting you if you'd like.
The
So,
Karma
well,
Statra.
I
Yeah,
wish I could tell you what the opportunity is. I really do, but my lawyer Justin advised me not to until certain things are through. But look, in September, early September, you will all find out what that opportunity will be. As Justin mentioned, it is like you're going to get 2 Christmases. There's going to be some new content that you'll be able to experience. I am not stopping talking about the Suns unless there's some restraining order that is slapped on me by somebody at some point, which could happen. You never know. But I will still be around, as will Saul. It'll just be a little different. So and I will still say ahoy hoy to the detriment of my own career and those around me. So
yeah,
look,
those like C. Buxtabar is like your typical teenager who wasn't paying attention to when the parents sat the kids around the table and gave the announcement that they're getting a divorce, and then 5 minutes later he wakes up, he looks up from his phone and says, "What's going on?
you guys are what?
I don't know what's going on." What?
Blaze, no, this is not a joke. This is not some really bad, elaborate joke for your Saturday because we're killing time in an off season. No, but look,
No.
that
Espo's off to find younger and better, and so am I. So you know what? Sometimes the marriage gets stale, and you got to go find someone who's more fit. That's all.
I mean, we thought Saul would change that, but it didn't. So, but no, look, I appreciate everyone. I hope you'll check out the new thing as well, and stay loyal to Dave because I know he's got plenty of good things up his sleeve. as well. Look, Dave.
Look, man, I'm old. I got all the same shit up my sleeve I've always had. It's just been good enough for you guys for now, so stay with me.
Yeah, well, and look, I will, I'll be around too. So, yeah, maybe I'll stop by and say hi to all our friends from time to time. But look, it is not goodbye. It's just, hey,
Mommy and Daddy
we'll
will still be
be around.
friends.
Well,
We can be in the same room
we never,
together.
Dave, we were never friends. We were just, let's not lie.
Well, for the
No, I'm
kids'
kidding.
sake,
No,
for the
Dave,
ballers' sake.
I will say this, and I don't say this jokingly, Dave. It has been an honor and a pleasure to be alongside you for 5 years and millions of age jokes. And look, it's not it wasn't easy, but I'm excited to see what you're able to do with this, and excited to see what the future holds. So yeah, just we'll be back at some point, be around in early September. Keep an eye out for it. Dave will keep giving you everything that you need here as well. And we somebody in the chat goes, is Espo moving in with Tim in Florida? No, I am not. I don't think that's good for the health these days to move anywhere in Florida. And I lived with Tim in a hotel room in Vegas for 2 days, and that was enough. All right. So yeah, but yeah, keep an eye out. We'll be around. And Dave, as
Jim
always,
Rose Circus asks, what's going to happen to Manscaped? I don't know. I got to decide if I can read those ads online.
Dave,
I haven't reached out to them yet.
hey, if you don't want your balls to look like Dave's chin, go to manscaped.com. Use the code FlamingBallers for 20% off and free shipping.
Hey,
get it in one last time.
last
That's what
ad
she
read.
said.
So thanks for the last quickie on the way out, Espo.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Dave, do you want to stat me one last time, or do you not have one of those?
No, I'm going to leave that for my ballers.
All right.
Yeah,
cool.
why don't you get the hell out of here?
I will. Dave, it's been an honor and a pleasure. If you need anything, I'm always around. Flaming Ballers. Love you guys, and we'll see you soon. I don't know why Dave just took his camera off, but maybe he's crying.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you sometime down the road. So later. Oh, yeah.
Hey, sorry about that, guys. Ha. All right, I am back, and I am going to bring in John Voida as a guest. I don't know what happened to my camera. I think Espo did something.
Watching you produce a show is worth the price of admission.
You're not on your microphone. You're getting reverberation all over your studio, man.
Hold on 1 second. See, look at what happens when Espo leaves.
Yeah. All right, we are back. So we are here. This is the new solar panel. No, Darth Voida, John Voida is just a guest. John is still running the Suns Jam.
You can hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you perfectly. John is still running the Suns Jam session podcast. You can still get that over with Matthew Lissy. They're great friends of the pod. John is just joining me for the rest of this episode. What I'll be doing going forward, ballers, no, it's not going to be Solar Jam anymore. That was only post games through the playoffs. What's going on is I'm going to be bringing in big name guests, little name guests, big name guests, guests of all names, and then eventually I'll settle on a co-host or two. I'm curious what you guys think in the baller section. Do you think that we should have 2 people on the show or 3 people on the show? Sometimes I feel like 3's a lot. Certainly on those podcasts, on the post games, you had up to 5 at a time. That's a lot to manage.
Five was a lot. There was a lot going on in those post game shows.
Yeah, and those are best as a post game thing, but I'm not sure if they're best as a Saturday morning thing. So I am looking for some feedback on whether you guys think I should get 1 co-host or 2. But for going forward, you're going to be seeing me every Saturday and midweek audio onlys as well, running the show. This wasn't rocket science to figure out. As much credit as I always gave those guys to produce these shows, It didn't take a whole lot to set it up for myself, so I hope it's all right. I only knocked my camera out of socket once, so I think we're good. This is totally easy. So Darth Voida, thank you for joining me today as a guest.
Thank you, Dave, for having
And-
me. It's weird. I mean, to go on right
Yeah.
after Espo, it's like, who was after Carson? Jay Leno? Like,
Well,
is
you're just a guest. I mean,
Yes,
don't get
exactly.
your head too big.
Yeah, but
Don't think too big on it.
Jay Leno started as a guest, and I don't know what's going to
That's
happen, but
true.
I'm just saying, hey.
Oh, he's laying the groundwork. Well, we'll see. There's going to be a lot of people. I don't know if you're young enough for my next. When you're rebounding off of a divorce.
Espo and I are the same age, so just don't get
Oh,
any
yeah.
ideas, Dave.
Yeah, I won't actually then. So yeah, what's Timmy up to? Tim is off living his life in Florida, so I don't know that he wants to join us. But I may have him on as a guest one day. Although Espo was the one who always carried our show, so I guess I got to step up now. All right. So we are actually now going to transition into actual Suns talk. Let's make this a regular show. We're going to talk about all the latest that's happened with the Phoenix Suns and talk about what things that has not happened with the Phoenix Suns yet that we really wished would happen. So first question I have for you that we need to talk through, Voida, is has Jalen Smith now suddenly grown himself into being a rotation player for the Suns? Now, let me set this up for a second before you answer. Stix has put up 3 double-doubles in 3 summer league games. He looks like, and that's always with another center playing next to him. So it's not like, this is comparable to Jay Crowder playing power forward next to DeAndre Ayton, and Crowder averaged 4 or 5 rebounds. So he's got a nose for the ball. Stix does have a nose for the ball on rebounding. He looks a little bit like a giraffe on offense, and he certainly shoots like he's using his forepaws sometimes around the basket. But he made 4 out of 7 threes on Friday night, and he's his best double-double, and he's 12 and 15, 15 and 12, and then 21 and 11. So really, really good. Do you think that Jalen Smith is worthy of playing that big swing forward next to Ayton? Because that's obviously what they want.
Well, let me start by saying this, Dave. I got to teach you how to be a gracious host. How you doing? How you been? Last time we potted together was at the Game 6 of the NBA Finals. So I just want to check in on you. How you doing spiritually, physically, emotionally, metaphorically? It's been a ride since then, since we've actually had a talk on a podcast. So before we go down the Jalen Smith Stix lane, let's just see how you doing, bud. You don't
actually care how I'm doing.
Of course,
Stop.
I care how you are,
Stop.
Dave. I text you all the time.
You didn't ask me any other time. You're suddenly asking me now.
I ask you all the time. I text you. I'm like, is everything okay? And you just don't respond. I see the 3 little dots,
disappear.
and then nothing. So just make sure you're okay.
That's because you have an iPhone. Shit.
Exactly.
You're not supposed to be able to see my 3 little dots. Hey, so that so good question. Thank you. What really, really happened is that last Friday night, you guys, ballers, you realize we did not have a show last Saturday morning. Last Friday night, Saul and Espo go, "Hey, you got a couple of minutes to talk?" And I said, "Sure." And that's when they laid it on me, what you guys heard this morning, that they're going off to do something new. And I needed a few days to figure out what I was going to do next. I wasn't ready to host my own show that next morning for sure, because those guys had always done the hosting. But then I started realizing, you know what? I really like this. I really like podcasting. I really like talking to the ballers every Saturday morning. You guys are great. And I don't mind starting from scratch, because I got to build up a whole new podcast feed on the audio side. I got to build up a whole new Twitter account on the Twitter side, and I'm going to do it. I'm excited. I'm excited because I don't want to stop talking about the Suns. I have a lot to say. I write about the Suns all week on brightsideofthesun.com. John Voida is a partner of mine on that on the blog, and we both write about the Suns all week, and we talk about them. So I'm like you, man. If Matthew left you, you would keep going, right?
Of course. Not I love you, Matthew. And I know you're probably watching. We're not splitting up. This isn't anything. But same thing, we have a passion for the Phoenix Suns. Some say for the past decade, people have said it's an unhealthy passion, but now that they're winning, all of a sudden it's like acceptable in society, which is fantastic. But yeah, I mean, we live and breathe the Suns, and kudos to you on continuing the solar panel and bringing that fire that you're always going to bring. I know that the Flaming Ballers, myself being one of them, is very excited that you're going to continue. And, thank you for having me on as one of your first guests. And yeah, let's get into some Suns talk. I mean, that's what it might not be the regular season, but it's still, there's so much going on, relative to the summer league and free agency and, trademark and what's out there. So, I think it's really fun to sit down with you. It's different for me because I'm used to going live like after games or late nights or just evenings. So I had to wake up this morning, have a Red
Saturday
Bull.
mornings.
Yeah, Saturday morning. This is weird.
I got
This
my
is
coffee.
tough. I got a Red Bull. I haven't had a time to get my makeup on. The makeup artist doesn't arrive till 5 o'clock at night, so it's a little awkward for me. But at the same time, you're like, yeah, let's talk about Stix. Let's definitely talk about him. I think that he's do you know that he's currently the 11th all time in Suns Summer League history with 16 points per game, and he's number 1 all time in Suns history with 12.7 rebounds per game. So he is definitely putting together a nice little resume for Suns fans to look at. He's number 3 all time in Suns Summer League history with 14.7 field goal attempts per game. And that's what we want. It's tough to interpret what you see in Summer League truly because of the level of competition, because it's very guard centric and there's a lot of isolation ball. So big men don't necessarily get the true look of how they're going to play or the opportunities they're going to get in the regular season. But you're seeing him take the shots. You're seeing him display the athleticism, display the motor that we all want from him. And, it's not necessarily what those field goal percentages are, although we'll reference those. And because they fit our narrative, he's shooting 38% from 3, where he shot 23.5% from 3 last season and 32.3% from 3 at Maryland. So he's never been really a good 3-point shooter, but based on his performance on Friday or Thursday night,
37% as in his final year, his second year in Maryland.
Yeah, he improved. And then obviously last year, it's like a very, very small sample size. I think he shot a total of 17 threes.
Probably,
so
I was going to say 4. Okay, 17.
Yeah, he was like
higher than
5 for 17 or something. And again, it's in garbage time, so it doesn't really matter. So trying to interpret the Summer League is something that's fun for Suns fans because we know it very well. We've done it over the past few years. But I think that, the way that he's been performing, and don't get me wrong, like if you read what I write on Brightside, I'm typically a little critical of him because like I am of Summer League players. It's hard to interpret. But I'm liking what I see offensively.
It's good to be critical of Summer League.
You have to be.
Marcus Banks had one of the greatest Summer League experiences in
42
history.
points.
Yeah.
So I think
Marco Bellinelli was supposed to be Steph Curry before Steph Curry.
Yes, and then the NBA happens, and all you're looking for in these Summer League games is, kind of what head coach Brian Randall referenced when he was doing a presser before the Summer League began. Is they're just looking for high energy. They're looking for him to continually play and put forth the effort. The quality of shots is something I'm looking for. If he can get himself into a quality shot, if he makes it or misses it, I don't care. I just want to see that he has the physical tools necessary to get to those spots, because practice and repetitions will assist in having those shots go down. But having some of the fundamental skills are what you're going to need to get to those spots when you're playing in the league.
Yeah, I've got a little bit different take than that. I think if you don't look, DeAndre Ayton, we are spoiled by his ability to finish around the rim in traffic. We call him soft, and he does avoid like heavy contact. He's not like Amari Stoudemire. Okay, so you've got way up here, you've got Amari Stoudemire's ability to dunk in traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got DeAndre Ayton's ability to finish in traffic. Then you have most other guys way down here, way down, that are not very good if there's any traffic at all around them. Jalen Smith, yes, he gets himself to the right spots. He offensive rebounds like crazy. He had 8 offensive rebounds in one game earlier this summer league. But when he puts it back up, it's like kind of a flail job. And I'm not sure that really can be taught. I think that's more innate than anything. So I'm not entirely sure that that's something he can get better at. However, putting the next shot attempt back up is important. So then your teammate can then do the putback from that. So keeping the ball alive. Rick Johnson earlier, I don't know if I shared it, but he was saying if there was one more rebounder on the floor next to Ayton in the finals, that could have helped. And true, I think that could have helped for sure. And yeah, here we go. Let me share that. Rick Johnson. Yeah. So it would have been nice to have somebody backing up DA. Now, what they're doing in Summer League is they're actively trying to see how Jalen Smith works as a power forward, even though he's more naturally predisposed to be a center. He can protect the rim. He doesn't necessarily have the sand in the bucket to defend in the post if someone's banging in the post. I'd rather see Chris Paul down there as short as he is, because he's got a little bit more sand in his bucket. Stix has nothing. He's got an empty bucket. He's got to grow into that. He's literally the giraffe legs. Now giraffes are pretty freaking strong, but they don't have a low center of gravity, and that's my worry there. So you still need somebody to defend the post against a tough guy, but weak side help can be very nice, and definitely just flying around and his constant energy is very, very helpful. So what do you think about him being able to play next to Ayton, or do you think he should be a backup to Ayton?
I think he'll end up being a backup. I think that, again, you're looking for the benchmarks to see how he performs when those benchmarks present themselves. And Summer League's a benchmark, and he is performing well. So it's like, all right, sweet. Now we got to kind of see the next benchmark is how he performs in the preseason. And when that occurs, and you can start to mess a little bit with rotations, knowing that the preseason isn't where you show all your entire hand. But I think that if he continues to hit these benchmarks and showcase that he has the ability to do what you need him to do, he's a solid 3-and-D guy now that he's hitting these threes all of a sudden. He can play a little defense. He can rebound. I can definitely see the Suns starting to mix in some different lineups and versatility. And that's what, you need all 15 guys on the roster to be successful. The Suns proved that last year. You look at some other teams and they weren't successful because they were a little too top heavy. I think the Suns did a really good job last year of filling out the bottom half of the roster. If Jalen Smith is part of that bottom half of the roster and he's productive, that gives nights off if needed. That helps spell any injury that could occur. And if he's, seeing him next to DeAndre Ayton for 5 minutes a game in little spurts is something that I think the Suns could explore, knowing that it does just that. It gives you secondary rebounding. It gives you somebody who can be down on the block next to Ayton or spread the floor and allow Ayton to kind of develop his game. Because that's the other side of the Suns that's going to be exciting this upcoming season is DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, all these guys, like they're going to take another step, hopefully, growth-wise. They're going to be more talented. And they have a little bit of experience. They have a lot more confidence now, seeing as they've been to the NBA Finals. So you put that together with Jalen Smith plugging in some of the gaps and allowing him to develop his confidence. And this team's going to be really fun and exciting to watch.
So Perplex Damage made a donation. Thank you so much, Perplex. I really appreciate that. I'm going to have to figure out how to get money out of this YouTube thing. I've never seen a dime off of it. I think Espo always kept it for himself. But anyway, thank you so much for that donation. I'll figure out where it goes. Did I not tell last year that Luka Garza, I think it's Luka Garza.
It's Luka, yeah.
Would be a good role player. And also Jake Weiskamp as shooting guard. Look, let's talk for a second about should you take things from Summer League as gold? And I'm not sure that you should. What do you get out of Summer League?
It's just, one, it's basketball. So I just enjoy watching basketball. I really enjoy watching, the people like Luka Garza, the draft guys, you want to see if all of the hype actually comes to fruition, knowing that none of it counts. Like it counts less than preseason. Because for some of the reasons I mentioned earlier, it's like some of these guys are out there, they're playing overseas. There's an opportunity to put some film together. So the guards are going to run a lot of ISO ball. So, and they're going to miss a lot too. So Jalen Smith, Garza, they're going to get a lot of rebounds because there's a lot of misses. So you can't sit there and say, this is what is going to translate to the NBA. Again, I'm looking for just some of those fundamental things, like Devin Booker when he played. He was fun to watch because you could see that fundamental jump shot was fire.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is something that can translate because it's a pure jumper. Some of these guys, they'll end with a nice stat line where they have 18 points, but they shot the ball 18 times. And they were a lot of very unathletic kind of throw ups, and they, throw it up to the rim or get fouled and get some points at the line. So you can't take too much into it. You're just looking to see. Jalen Smith is a great example. You're looking to see if that guy is athletically the best guy on the court. And with Jalen Smith, I've seen that. And we got it. Maybe his nickname should be the Giraffe because you've referenced him as a giraffe like 3 times now. And like now it's like now I'm starting to buy into that narrative. Like he is kind of giraffe-like when he's down there on the block. He's just kind of throwing up one of those. There was I think it was game 2. There's an air ball, and he was right under the basket. He tried to throw it up, and it was one of the ugliest things I've ever seen. And it looked like a giraffe had shot it. But I think that's what I'm really looking for, is just to see if the guys that you have faith in or that you hope that are going to perform well athletically look like the best guys on the court, or if they're just average Joes amidst a bunch of average Joes.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing is look, I hope for Luke Garza's sake that he does turn out to be a really good player. I don't even know who's playing for, but yes, you did say last year he could be a good player. Perplex, and I appreciate the reminder on that. We'll see how it works out. I just don't necessarily want to take Summer League as gold. That's all. So now let's talk about the other player that the Suns are trying to feature, but not as much as Stix. Like the Summer League roster is all about Stix. Okay. Totally is. He's playing the most minutes. He played 35 minutes in Thursday's game. There's only 40 minutes in a Summer League game. He played 35. Then they've got random people. The rest of the roster is random randos. But the other dude is Tyson Alexander. He was on a 2-way with the Suns last year. You saw him on the bench more than anything, dressed in street clothes. But he is a 6'4", 6'5", shooting guard, 3-and-D kind of guy. He made 40% of his threes in college at the shorter line. He does project as being kind of like I don't know if you if people are pining for a Josh Hart type player, who's basically 6'4", 6'5" combo guard who can defend. He's got a little bit of heft to him. He's a little thicker, so he can take on bigger wings. That's supposedly Tyson Alexander. However, for him to make it in the league, I think he needs to stand out from these other Euro players. Otherwise, he's just going to end up being a European, going over to Europe to play. What have you seen from Tyson Alexander this week?
I've really enjoyed watching him play. I mean, he's somebody who has confidence, and the confidence you should have after you've been on a team for a year. You've backed up Chris Paul and Devin Booker. You've learned from them. He comes out, and it's interesting that Brian Randall hasn't started him. I think, I think a lot of us are kind of, but I made this point on the Suns Jam Session podcast where I think that one of the reasons that might be is because they're trying to limit some of his minutes, because if he's out there starting and he's putting up huge numbers, like another team's going to snag him up as soon as they can. Snack him up, eat him right up. And I don't blame him. I mean, he's a talented kid. I mean, the thing you have to remember about Tyson Alexander is, although he was undrafted last season coming out of Creighton, he was the best player on the team that ended with the 7th best, or they're the 7th seed in the country. I mean, Creighton was looking good. They were number 1 in the Big East. They were looking forward to the NCAA tournament, and then COVID happened. And I got to ask you, do you think COVID and no NCAA tourney hurt his draft stock overall?
Who knows, right? Because really, I thought it was really interesting last year's draft because nobody's draft stock was unduly influenced by the March Madness, because you've always got some players. You got some players like John Morant, for example, that was March Madness was great for, because then as the pro season championships happened, each conference, and then March Madness happened a year ago, all of a sudden John Morant, people are like, holy crap, this guy from this little college is really, really good. And he is really, really good. Somebody would have gotten lucky on him later in the draft if there wasn't a March Madness.
Could have been the Suns.
Yeah, well, let's don't start throwing out the woulda, couldas on that. We already have a hard enough time with Tyrese Halliburton.
Yes.
But we being the collective Suns draft Twitter, wanted Jarrett Culver
Bingo. I was
over
going to bring
Cam
up his name.
Johnson. So let's remember that maybe we don't always know the future before it happens. So, but anyway, back to with your question of does March Madness make a difference? It sure does to guys' players' draft stock for sure. Didn't hurt DeAndre Ayton. He lost in the first round to Buffalo, but it definitely helped John Morant a year ago. So would the draft order have been different without, if there was a March Madness this past year? Probably. But the players are the players. And I don't know of any. De'Aaron Fox is another great example of a guy who had a super great March Madness a few years ago, and then got drafted in the top 5 because of that, and may have actually found extra confidence from having played so well in March Madness to make him a better pro. So who knows? It's definitely been a weird couple of years because of the pandemic, for sure.
And I think with
so
Tyson, I think it hurt him. I think he's somebody who he wasn't going to be a first round lottery pick, but he would have been drafted by a team if Creighton had won a couple games. Because again, Creighton's one of the schools, although they're in the Big East, they're a team that not a lot of people talk about. I mean, their best player of all time is Doug McDermott. So it's like not one of those perennial blue chip Kansas, Kentucky, U of A. It's not one of those schools where you get automatic exposure simply by just putting on the jersey. So you have to put a little bit of a tournament run. And somebody like Tyson Alexander, who had a very good college career with the Blue Jays, his draft stock falls off. He declares as a junior. He comes out, doesn't get drafted. The Suns bring him in. He's real low on, it's a 2-way contract. He's low on the roster, but at the same time, he's learning. He's learning from quality. 2 all-stars are ahead of him. And that's who he's learning from. And he talked about that prior to Summer League starting is how, he understands this offense. And it's really been fun watching him run a lot of the Devin Booker plays. He's doing a lot of the high handoffs into, 19-foot jumpers, and he's stroking and he's knocking them down. You look at how he's played. He's got 11.3 points per game in 20 minutes thus far in the Summer League. It's very productive basketball that he's been playing.
Yeah, he looks better than the Euro guys on his team. So if he does end up not making it in the NBA, he'll do really well in Europe. If these are the kind of guys, a couple of them have won like MVPs in their little leagues. Yep. PJ Tucker is a great example from way back. He had been MVP of his team, his league, first team Bamberg in Germany, before he joined the Suns for Summer League as an add-on, as a late ad. And Dan Marley fell in love with him, who was the Suns Summer League coach that year, and assistant coach on the staff. And he coached the Summer League team, kind of like Brian Randall's doing this year. And he loved PJ Tucker, and they signed PJ Tucker. And look, he's had a 10-year career since. So good for PJ. But anyway, back to Tyson. I'm not sure he's that much better than those guys, though. And the Suns' guard depth is full. So hopefully he's showcasing himself. Like you're saying, they're not starting him, so he's not totally being able to be showcased to the rest of the league. Maybe they are trying to stash him on a 2-way again.
Yeah.
But there's really no room at the end now that they've added Landry Shamet and Elfrid Payton, who apparently CP3 reached out to take the minimum to be the third point guard on the Suns. So, you know what, we may not have great memories of Elfrid Payton, but certainly if CP3 wants him, then he must be at least okay.
Why don't we have great memories of Elfrid Payton? Like, he was only here for a few games. He dropped a couple triple doubles.
Because the Suns were 1-18.
True.
And by the end, even we were like, do we have to see him again? And then he's been on the Knicks the last 2 years.
It was the hair.
Guess what? There was a celebration post on Posting and Toasting that finally Elfrid Payton won't be back.
But the reason they didn't like Elfrid Payton is because they wanted Derrick Rose to start so much. Because I remember I do the SB Nation Says on our pod, like after the games, and that was the number one thing I noticed. Whenever we played the Knicks, they were just pissed that it wasn't Derrick Rose. And I think that we were 1-18 during that run. But one of the things that we had a challenge with leading up to that forever, and we did for a little bit afterwards, was we didn't have a point guard. And he at least provided some semblance of a point guard. I remember just being frustrated with the rest of the lineup at the time. That's with, if I remember correctly, Marquise Chris, Dragon Bender, and Alex Len, like none of them were doing anything that we wanted them to do. Couldn't play defense, couldn't shoot. So I never truly faulted Elfrid Payton. He's somebody I liked, but not in the starting role. So seeing him come back, and I know I'm totally going on a tangent here, but seeing him come back as the third backup to the point guard. I think that's
without
a
the
great
hair.
signing.
So
Yeah,
he's already
without the
bonus.
hair. And I think it's a really smart signing.
Yeah. Well, as a third point guard, for sure.
Yes.
Because you know what? When the Suns were stuck playing Etuan Moore as the as a point guard at times, there was a few games that Campaign missed because of an ankle. There was 2 games only that Chris Paul missed. And then, of course, there was a couple of playoff games that Chris Paul missed as well. And Etuan Moore was the only option to back up, be that third point guard.
And he's not a
And
distributor.
look, what Monty liked is he didn't turn the ball over. Sure, okay, he didn't make any passes either, but he didn't turn the ball over, so that was good. So at least Elfrid Payton can pass. So as a third point guard, he's a bonus. As a starter, he's not, but as a fill-in, maybe he's worth having. So, and they resurrected the career of Campaign. So it's possible that Monty knows how to be a point guard whisperer. Who knows?
No,
But it's okay. Yeah, Alfred Blaze says Alfred and Jay Crowder had an on-court pushing match. Well, I think Jay Crowder gets into pushing matches with a lot of players.
Well, didn't JaVale McGee get
actually,
into
Jay
some
Crowder
with
had a
Frank?
thing against Devin Booker.
Yes.
Until he joined the team, and that was never an issue. So that's not going to be an issue as far as the pushing. But that definitely just shows that they're both they've got some heat to their game.
Do you have Netflix, Dave? Can I call you David? You should be David King for moving forward.
Why?
Now that because like the solar panel, it's getting
no, I'm
crazy.
only David if I'm in trouble.
Okay, so Dave, there's a new doc on Netflix called it's all about the Malice in the Palace. And one of the
I haven't seen it yet.
It's good. It's good. I watched it last night. And one of the things, kind of to reference what Blaze Megatron said, one of the things that they talked about with Jermaine O'Neal and Ben Wallace, and that's what kind of Ben Wallace through the first push and everything. He's like, what the fans don't realize is a lot of us are really friends. Like, yeah, you're going to get into little ruckuses on the court, but it's not going to translate outside of, on the court. It's outside the lines, they're fine. So when you have Frank Kaminsky and JaVale McGee getting into it, Devin Booker and Jay Crowder, Elfrid Payton and Jay Crowder, it's not something I ever really worry about. It's when you start to feel like Kendall Jenner in there and you talk about Blake Griffin, Devin Booker, I worry about those things.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Those are those are the relationships. Yes, exactly. Precisely.
Yeah. No, that's good. So as a third point guard, and yes, as Hello reminds us, we always thought his hair was blocking his own shot because he couldn't see.
Yes,
so he doesn't have that issue. Although he's no better shooter than he ever was before, so that didn't turn out to be the problem. He's just still a bad shooter. But I also saw a stat somebody shared. I think it was Zen Varlock on Twitter, I'm pretty sure, shared that one thing that was dramatically missing from the Suns' shot attempts was shots at the rim this past year, and primarily CP3 and Campaign, less than 20% of their shots come in the paint or within 3 feet of the rim, really close to the rim. Elfrid Payton, because he cannot shoot and he's a little bit bigger, does get to the rim at least. And he shoots 55-60%, just like those guys do, but 41% of his shots come close to the rim. So Elfrid Payton is going to be a good driving kick point guard. Again, he's no savior. Again, we're going to hope he doesn't play that much, but when he does play, it won't be the worst thing in the world.
No, 100% agree.
All right, so let's move on. So we talked about Stix, we talked about Tyson. Do you have any other summer league observations besides the ones we talked about of don't whatever you see in summer league never doesn't leave summer league?
I do. I got a couple here for you. So one, I know that in James Jones we trust, but like too many Smiths and too many Alexanders on this summer league team. Like, come on, James, you got to help us out. You got to help the announcers out. That first game was brutal. Mark Jones calling Jalen Smith, Tyson Alexander. I mean, it gets confusing at times. And I get that a lot of these names, you're not going to remember any of these names, truthfully. But
seriously, two Smiths and two Alexanders.
Yeah, like the two guys were there to watch. A Smith and an Alexander. We get not only two of them, but one is also named Jalen Smith. So it's just, that's just an observation, James.
So Jeff Bauer left the front office, right? You heard this, right?
Yes,
a couple weeks ago, he quietly moved on, kind of like Espo's quietly moving on from solar panel. My question is, did he get fired because he put this roster together for summer league, or did they only cobble together this roster because he didn't do one and they were scrambling at the last second? What's Jeff Bauer's role? You think so?
Yeah, I think so. I think he was probably in charge of the summer league roster. he quits or moves on. And then, yeah, James Jones is just like, I'm just going to grab a bunch of guys from Europe and the G League, and I don't care. And then they show up, and he didn't care that they all had Alexander or Smith as their last name. But it's actually quite comical, like watching this team play and trying to determine.
Monty said you got to get Alexander and Smith on the team.
Yes.
And then whoever was putting a team together found another Alexander and found a Smith, and then they go, oh. They might have even said, "What's Smith? Jalen Smith." Oh, yeah, okay, I'll get you one. Man, it took him forever to find a Jalen Smith overseas, and then he realized what was going on. So I could just see the guy putting together the summer league roster might have been a little out of touch.
Yeah, that guy needs to leave with Jeff Bauer, because I mean, it's seriously, it's been.
I think let's just pin it on Jeff Bauer. Let's just say
it's all Jeff Bauer's fault. That it's all Alexander and it's all Smith's playing for the Summer Suns. So that's one of my observations. Another one is this draft class was nice. Watching Cade Cunningham, watching Jalen Green, they've been really fun to watch. The future of the NBA is bright, and I'm looking forward to seeing how both of those guys play, especially Cade Cunningham. The Pistons are a team that are in the other conference. They're rebuilding. They're the team that got Luka Garza. They had Killian Hayes last year, who's a draft pick that I liked. So it's fun to watch. And, again, that's the fun of Summer League is your first exposure to these guys. And, again, you don't know how it's going to translate, but seeing them play against each other and go back and forth, I mean, that's been really fun. And then Obi Toppin's my big one. I was a huge fan of his coming out of the draft. I knew he wouldn't drop to 10 for Phoenix.
God, you guys.
Oh, I loved Obi Toppin.
Your knees were scratched after a while there.
Manscaped. But he went 8 to the Knicks, and he's put up 23.5 points and 9.2 boards, and he's dominating the paint versus chucking threes is he
the quad A kind of tip, the guy who's always going to be great in a summer league type setting?
Most likely.
Not in the NBA.
He's the Marcus Banks. We'll see, but
I think he was underused. I don't think I don't know who decided Obi Toppin should be coached by Tom Thibodeau. I don't understand that at all. That was bad communication between the front office and the coach. Obi Toppin, because his worst thing about Obi Toppin is that he's worse on defense than Jalen Smith, I think.
Oh yeah,
as far as sliding his feet and all that, and there was no way he was going to play for Tom Thibodeau. So maybe he'll have earned Thibodeau's trust for this next year. So I think Obi Toppin can be a good player, but he was not put in a great situation.
Well, exactly. Then you're behind Julius Randle, who all of a sudden goes like all NBA on everybody. So it's not indicative of his growth. I don't think that's a good fit. I don't know what's a good fit. I'm not saying like the Suns need a trade for Obi Toppin, because to your point, I love defense, and what defined this team last year was defense. And seeing Stix play better defense and rebound is something that is like, okay, that's why he will be able to get minutes on this team, because he's not a liability on defense. Now he's still got a long way to go. One of the we've circled back to the Stix conversation, but like one thing that I've noticed, and now you guys can watch this too, is he's a hands down defender. When you've got a 7'2" wingspan, throw those big mitts up, boy. I get it. Like you're afraid to have guards rip through you, and I'm sure that coming through the AAU circuit, it's happened to him.
What Ayton always says, DeAndre Ayton, who's gotten really good at not drawing fouls, and avoiding the rip throughs, is show your hands. The problem that a lot of these defenders have is not only the hands down, like you just said, hands at your sides, because I don't know you can't defend with your hands at your sides. So that's a problem. But when you do get your hands out, don't get them into the jersey of the offensive player, because that's what they do the rip through for. So if you see Ayton out there, he's always got his hands showing more than anything else on his body, and that's how he doesn't get foul calls. He keeps them vertical and was defending the rim, but also just keep them out and don't put them on the other guy's body, because then the other guy's going to draw a foul with that. Because what we don't notice is that you also, when you get your arms down in that area, the offensive player hooks you and then draws the foul by making it look like you're the one who's holding them back, when if you put it in slow motion, they hooked you on their way by. James Harden is the best at that.
Oh yeah, and hopefully that rule change that they've all talked about, yet I've yet to see in Summer League actually enacted, is something that's going to negate some of that hooking and creating the contact from the offensive player to the defensive player. And to your point on the hands, another thing is you don't put your hands out and forward either. You're not out there, because that's how you get them stuck. out, up,
Out to
and
the
even back a
side.
little bit. Because
Yep,
again,
yep.
you're creating this huge bubble saying, even if it's not truly stopping the opposition, it's creating a visual deterrent. And Stix is huge. And that's the one of the little things that I've noticed with him is he needs to really make sure that he is just putting
A
those
huge
hands up and
Stix.
out. I don't know how I went from Obi Toppin back to Stix, but I see Hello says in the chat, he's like, you don't think he's getting traded? Obi Toppin, I think, with performances like this, could get traded. I really do think that the Knicks, that's a good
or
asset.
is he talking about Stix?
I think we were talking about Obi when he typed that. But I really think that in time, Obi probably could get traded. I just don't think the Suns will in any way, shape, or form make a run for him.
They've already got Stix, so they
yeah,
don't really need
exactly. You have that player.
Mhm.
But that was one of my
Yeah.
observations in Summer League. I like how Obi's playing. But rounding out other observations, going back to the Suns, I think one of my favorite things about the Summer League so far, it's great seeing the team, including a newly minted Olympic gold medalist in Devin Booker, all there to support the team. And that
Yep.
just fortifies what makes the Suns great right now. It's all about culture.
They were there. Yeah, they were there. Campaign talked about it. They were there to celebrate Campaign's birthday. He said he'd been talking to the team about meeting up in Vegas for his birthday the entire season. He's like, look, man, I knew I was going to be free agent. I told him it didn't matter if I signed with another team or what team I was on. We're going to meet up in Vegas. And if you'll notice, Javon Carter was there with them, as was Landry Shamet. And they were sitting side by side, courtside that first night with Booker and Cam and the Cams and Mikal. We're all sitting down there, and Javon Carter and Landry Shamet were side by side, who had been traded for each other. That was great. But they were there to celebrate Campaign's birthday. I found it interesting because I don't know how many of the Summer League guys were invited to this birthday party because none of them had been related to the Suns. And then Tyshawn might have hung out with them because he said he was going to. And then Jalen Smith I don't know if he fits in that crowd as a partier in Vegas because he just barely is 21 or 22.
Yeah.
He's really, let's just say devout. So I'm not sure if he's really a party scene kind of dude, but it is interesting that the entire Suns Summer League team shot 20% from a field for a game the night after Campaign's birthday party. 20% from the field for a game.
What's also impressive is Campaign and Cam Johnson were both at that game the next day. Like, how much fun did you really have to where you could actually show up to a game the next day after a night in Vegas on your birthday? Like, that's
maybe something stronger, but that's coffee.
Yeah, seriously. But I noticed the same thing. Yeah, they couldn't shoot to hit anything in that second game against the Jazz. And I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, yeah, these guys, I think, Jalen Smith, the second one, or Alexander, the third Alexander, I think they all went out and wherever the private club
they
was,
must have all, because they're all mid-20s and they're all
and they're in
worldly.
Vegas.
We'll call them worldly because they're Euro. They've been in Euro.
they are very worldly.
They're Americans who've been playing over in Europe. When I say they're Euro players, that's what I meant.
No. Exactly.
Okay, so we got a couple of big questions that you and I need to talk about before we head out of here. We're at the 53-minute mark, so we got about 10 minutes left, if you don't mind. My first big question is: do the Suns need another superstar to get back to the finals? Now, let me set this up. I've done a little bit of research, and that I'm going to be at some point sharing on Brightside, if not a bigger stage, about how some contenders have stayed contenders and how some have gone one and done. Were you aware that most teams that make the finals or the conference finals, not at least half of the teams that make a finals or conference finals, don't ever get back there?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So the other half do. And what is it about the other half that keeps them there? You would think, well, you get the same core and you keep it going. Not necessarily. About half of those that keep it going change something big before they get back there again. And rarely does the same combination of coach and top two players, stay for a second finals run. So my question for you is, can the Suns get back to the finals as with their top two players being Chris Paul and Devin Booker and their coach being Monty Williams?
God, that's so tough, especially now that you've given me that history. Like, because my first inclination is.
Oh, by the way, in the settlement, I need to get the Stat Me Dave GIF because I didn't get it. Saul has to bequeath that to me because I would have done the Stat Me Dave because that was a Stat Me moment.
I have it somewhere, so I'll send it to
You
you.
do?
Yeah, 'cause
Hey,
I used it for our
you
live
went into the
streams.
house and stole the property for me. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't get to say hi to Justin this morning. I wanted to say sustained. That's my favorite thing to tell him. So whatever he says, you just go sustained, Justin, sustained. That's correct. Overruled. But another superstar, like in theory, it helps, right? And now, based on the Stat Me Dave that I just received, like it's clear that it probably should occur. You know, it's a sexy thing to do. And you look at the Lakers and you look at the Nets right now. Like all these teams are accruing all this, top end talent. But the challenge with that is, you have to give assets up to do it, and that hurts the depth of the team. And we saw that hurt the Lakers and the Nets in the playoffs last season, is their lack of depth. So there's that side of it, obviously, to where if you want to sustain. But again, the challenge for the Suns, as much as last season was a dream. It really was. 2 seasons ago, we weren't in the playoffs. Last season, we were in the NBA Finals. And I was having this conversation with a friend the other day, because they're like, how you feeling, bud? The Suns. I'm like, dude, we were in the finals. Like, come on now.
I know, right? People ask me how disappointed I am. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not disappointed at all.
At all.
I'm it sucks that they lost, but I'm
Of course.
so excited that they were there.
Exactly. And it's, maybe 5 years from now, I'll go back and I'll be like, man, we really had a shot then. And I'll be more upset than I am right now. But I've never been upset. Even when we did the podcast right after the finals ended, I was still happy because we were there. And I don't want to be one of those, well, you don't want to be one of those guys who's happy because you got there, but we had to be. I mean, it's a team that 2 years ago wasn't in the playoffs. So,
Right.
You look at that side of it, and you look at how the Suns got there through that magical run. Yeah, some breaks went their way, and yeah, some breaks went against them too. We had what was released yesterday that Devin Booker had a hamstring injury in Game 3 of the NBA Finals. It's probably one of the reasons why he sat the entire fourth quarter. Chris Paul obviously had.
Yeah, but he was fine after that. Amani
He
didn't
was.
say it was lingering, and he went straight to the Olympics after that. So it couldn't have been that bad. But in
True.
that particular game, he's just explaining why Booker didn't play the fourth quarter. I remember people all over Twitter going nuts on why Chris Paul was playing in a 20-point deficit in the fourth, but not Booker. And so it's simple. Booker had a tweak. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly. But again, you look at, and the breaks went both ways is what I'm saying. But a lot of, can the Suns get back there? You might need that second superstar. And right now you have Chris Paul and Devin Booker. So, I guess my answer is I think that the Suns can go superstar hunting eventually, but I'm not sure if this is the season to do it. I think that maybe next season, moving forward, we're going to have to do it. And maybe, am I too don't rock the boat with this, do you think? Am I too safe in the, I don't want to explore?
No, I was going to actually give the same answer.
Okay.
I was thinking you might go down the keep it, bring it back. What generally happens to these teams is they do change something about either the top 2 players or the coach for one reason or another, but it's only after they disappoint, right? They're not going to, nobody rocks the boat the first time. So you've got, we'll go another year with the core the way it is. But I guess what I'm saying is by the time the Suns are really back, it might be that DA grows into being that guy. It might be that we look back on this and we realize this was the first big step for DA going forward in his career, and he grows and he becomes even better. We'll just have to see how that is. He's got the right mentors on the team. Or it could be that they eventually make a trade like a year from now. If Toronto is still floundering, Pascal Siakam would be a perfect fit on this team. It just depends. There's other guys who are going to be available. Eventually, Chris Paul is going to kind of fall apart a little bit physically because he's almost going to be 40 years old by the time his contract is ending. You're going to get another point guard, and there's point guards out there, and some of them can make a difference in the finals. But by that time, Devin Booker needs to be the guy who's doing the Chris Paul things, where he does everything right to make a team a winner, and the point guard doesn't have to be the leader. It's got to be Devin Booker. So we're going to have to see that growth. Okay, so we both agree this year maybe don't go after another superstar.
Well, yeah,
but,
I mean, real quick, I mean, you have a solid young core, so you hold on to that, you cherish it, you nurture it. You take it to the movies, you buy it popcorn, because it's going to be gone in the blink of an eye. And everything that the timeline was all about is getting to this moment right here. So don't turn into the 2004/5 Suns and trade off some pieces like Quentin Richardson and Joe Johnson and try to rebuild everything right in the middle of where you're taking off. So that's my last point there.
No, that's good. That's a good point. Okay, last question for you before we start doing wrap-up stuff, because I have a big ask for the ballers at the end here, so don't leave, ballers. I got a big ask. But the first question before that is, right now the Suns do have an open spot on their roster. They have 14 players under contract. They have half their mid-level exception left. They still have not signed JaVale McGee, by the way.
Yeah.
He was one of the first players to agree in free agency to a contract, but he still has not signed anything. So I feel like the Suns are trying to figure out that last wing rotation player that's going to replace Torrey Craig out there as a big forward. They're trying to see if Jalen Smith can play that big forward without having to make a big move, or do they need to acquire somebody, or do they just need to wait out Paul Millsap to take the second half of the MLE? Are they negotiating with JaVale to take a little bit less than 5? I don't think you can at this point. That's bad faith. Nobody has cap room left, so JaVale's not going to let him off the hook. That's for sure. So I really think the Suns, as far as I know, have not applied for the disabled player exception. By the way, Vincent, you guys keep asking. It's not just handed to a team. A team has to ask the league for it. Disabled player exception is when you've got a guy who's going to be out the whole season for sure, or it looks like an independent doctor will say that it's unlikely he can play in the next season at all. Then you can get half that player's salary in a disabled player exception that can only be used on one player for 1 year, and it's worth $4.4 million. That's less, by the way, than actually 4.6. Sorry. No, it's going to be 4.4 because Dario's second year of his contract goes down to 8.8. So this would be worth 4.4, which is less than what's left of the MLE. So if you can't get your guys to take a 4.6 MLE, no one's going to take the 4.4 DPE. So stop worrying about the disabled player exception. Plus, that would put the Suns into the luxury tax unnecessarily.
Yeah.
And their rotation is already too full to get anybody who would take that money that would actually be worthy of playing in the rotation. I'd like to still see Paul Millsap come in. I'd like to see a trade for maybe a Thaddeus Young. What do you think, though, Darth? What do you think?
It's tough. I think that, with Stix getting some minutes this year, and if he's productive, I think he fills that power forward, 3-and-D gap that we have. So Paul Millsap, essentially, if Stix can take those minutes, you don't need a Paul Millsap. And I think that the one real area that the Suns could use some assistance in is the backup to the backup, essentially, of, our just Mikal Bridges, that small forward / wing, 2/3 guy. And there's just not a lot of guys out there. So, I hear the Thad Young rumors. Do you think that there's any merit to those rumors? Because, you see Flex, our buddy
It's
Flex.
all rando. I mean, Thad Young, the problem with Thad Young is that he makes $14 million.
Yeah.
So the Spurs would have to want, okay, do you really want to lose Jalen Smith now? That's the question. I think we needed to see Summer League. I think the Spurs, if that's a potential, needed to see Jalen Smith in Summer League. And I think the Spurs would actually love to get this Jalen Smith in trade.
Agreed.
They don't have any big men prospects. They have a bunch of guard prospects. They don't have any big men prospects. So Jock Landale is not a big man prospect, even though he got signed by them. So I think they would love to see Jalen Smith. Do you really want to regret having Jalen Smith watching him on the Spurs?
Hell no.
But that may be what they're waiting for. And you'd have to add up him and Dario. They'd have to want Dario's empty contract, and a year off to be able to do that, to get Jalen Smith. So it's possible we can get Thad Young, and that would be great for this year. And maybe because he's a free agent after a year, Thad Young is. And Jalen Smith will just be growing into his sticks by then. So do you really want to do that?
No, and I don't. You see that all over Twitter right now. So everybody's talking about, because of the way that Jalen Smith is playing, he is more valuable of an asset to essentially move right now. And I say, why do that? If he's a valuable asset right now, knowing that it takes big men, 2 to 3 years to really kind of get their sticks under them, he could be a very productive player in the next iteration of this Phoenix Suns team. Why give that up for a guy who, again, might not get a ton of minutes? I mean, again, I get we're 15 deep. I get that you have to be 15 deep to navigate an entire NBA season, especially going back into the 82 game format that we're going to this upcoming season. But at the same time, like, I don't think that we need to sacrifice potentially the future. I don't know if he's the future, but I don't think that we need. It's not a necessity right now. It's not a true need right now. And I think that's what the key is for the Suns fans. Remember, like, we are a deep team already. We just have essentially that one last roster spot that we can really fill. So get a nice veteran guy if you can. Like, one guy that I've said is Ersan Ilyasova. He's old as shit. Sorry, somebody finally cussed on the show, but he's old, but he's a good veteran guy. Got a lot of playoff experience. He can shoot the 3 ball. He's not going to give you a lot on defense, but he's somebody who you can bring in and just add to that culture at the back end of that roster, and you can get for a really nice, a contract. So I think that we're overthinking everything. I think that a lot of Suns fans are just hungry for a trade.
Yeah,
really
yeah. We just want activity. We want activity.
Yes.
We want to see something flashing in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
That's why people go to Vegas, just so they can see the flashing. We want to see that. But really, when you get back down to it, the Suns have a great team, and they really should run it back and see if they can go further. They did not get. They got some fortunate breaks with some other stars being injured in the playoffs, but they also made fortune happen by being so good at what they did. I mean, they had the second best record in the regular season. They had the best road record. They had the best back-to-backs record. They had all kinds of, or best wins after losses record. The Suns were just great at everything last year. They can do it again. And I don't see Chris Paul falling off. Okay, I've got a big favor to ask. Huge favor. What I got in the divorce was you guys. I got the ballers in the divorce. Okay. Espo is gone. Saul is gone. They're going to bigger, better opportunities. But I got to keep you guys, and I'm very proud of that. But what that also means is I got to rebuild my audience on the podcast feed, because I push these out on audio, and really only 300 people have listened so far to the awesome podcast I just put out the other day with special guests Dan Favali and Keith Smith on how free agency unfolded. Well, who were the winners and losers, and where did the Suns stack up in the West? You're going to want to listen to that. So here, I'm going to put a link in the chat. I need you guys to do me a huge favor. Click this link and listen to my episode from Thursday that's still fresh, and subscribe, rate, and review. So please do me a big favor. I need ratings again. I lost all those. Espo kept those because they're going to rename that feed, and they're going to put out a different Sun show, which you're still going to be able to follow. Those guys are great. Espo and Saul are set up for the future. That's fine. I got to reset myself up. So do me a big favor. Click that link and hook up to that feed so you get the notifications when I drop more audios. I'm going to have midweek audio onlys, and these are going to go out as well on the audio feed. So please click that. It's the Chartable link. It should go to whatever podcast app you use. Most people use Apple Podcasts, but if you use Spotify, it should go to whatever one you use, and you should be able to subscribe to it and leave a rating for me. I'd really appreciate it. Already somebody found me and gave me a 1-star rating. Maybe it was Saul. I don't know.
No,
Saul's
I'll tell you
in the
what,
chat
though.
here.
I'll tell you what. So
but somebody did.
The Suns jam session. So we came off of the Bright Side of the Sun feed. And that's what we're doing. We kind of went solo. We're freelancing out there. Kind of the same thing. So we're rebuilding our brand too. And somebody gave us a 1-star review too. So somebody went and gave us both 1-star reviews.
Yeah,
whoever
and that's
you are,
fine. It happens.
thank you
It's
for stopping by and
and
subscribing.
Yeah, if you're going to go to all that trouble, just you've got other issues in your life.
Yeah.
So I'm not even going to judge. No, Saul, I'm just kidding with you. I know you
we
gave a
love you,
5-star
Saul.
review already, Saul, right? So please click that link, Saul, and everyone else in the chat. Do me a huge favor. Just help me out with that. Do your thumbs up on this YouTube show and listen to that podcast that's out there. I appreciate it, because that is a really good one. Those guys are great. Dan Favali was excellent. Keith Smith, excellent. Gave really good perspective on the best and worst moves in free agency, as well as, I don't know how you rate on Google, Rick.
They
Just
don't let
listen.
you. The only place you can rate is Apple.
Great. Okay. Well, whatever you can do, subscribe so that you get them. and listen, because that was great. Those guys were fun, and they actually had really positive feedback about where the Suns land after free agency for next year. So people have not left Suns Island quite yet. So listen to it, and I appreciate you guys still being here. And I'll be back with you next weekend with a different guest. Thank you for joining me today, Darth. I appreciate you. Watch and listen to Darth on the Suns Jam. Tell us where they can find you, Darth.
You can follow the show at Suns Jam on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Safeway.
TikTok.
Yeah, we have a TikTok channel. It's pretty funny.
Wow.
3 followers. It's really dope. You can follow me at Darth Voida. You can follow my co-host Matthew Lissy at Matthew Lissy. Thanks for having me, Dave. Definitely. This is fun. It's good talking ball with you.
Well, thank you. And I'll be getting new guests every week. It's gonna be a blast. And I appreciate y'all still being here. And we'll talk to y'all next week. Adios.
Take care, everybody.